Alright, y'all, so question 1 wants me to express in terms of I, and they're giving me a square root of a negative 81. Alright, so if you notice up here, we got a definition that says the square root of negative 1 is equal to I. So that means if I get a radical that looks like that, I'm going to replace it with the I, and that's how I get my imaginary numbers. So what I would do to the square root of 81 is break that apart. Now I'm going to use two radicals because 81 is a perfect square, so I'm going to bring 81 down here, and then I'm going to put negative 1 into the other radical. Now under the radicals, 81 times negative 1 still equals negative 81. Alright, so now let's bring these out of the radicals. Square root of 81, that's going to be 9. And then I can't take the square root of negative 1, but I'm going to replace it with the I. So that my final answer is 9I. Alright, same thing on number 2, right in terms of I, and they're giving me a negative 121. So again, 121 is a perfect square, so I'm going to break this into two radicals, put 121 under the first radical, and negative 1 under the second radical. Alright, so here we go. Square root of 121 is 11. Square root of negative 1, I cannot take, but I'm going to replace it with the I. So my final answer, 11I. Alright, number 3, expressed in terms of I. This time we're putting a negative on the outside, and then a square root of negative 49. Alright, so this negative on the outside is not affected by the radical, so we're going to bring that negative down, and then we're going to separate this radical into the perfect square of 49 and negative 1. So basically we're always going to bring that negative out as a negative 1 under the radical, okay? So now this negative still comes down. Square root of 49 is 7, and then I'm going to replace the square root of negative 1 with I. So if it's negative outside of a square root radical, your answer will be negative. Alright, number 4, expressed in terms of I got a negative square root, negative 144. So the same thing as number 3, this negative we're going to bring down. 144 is a perfect square, so I'm going to separate my radical into a 144 and a negative 1. Alright, so that negative is going to continue down. Square root of 144 is 12, and we're going to replace the square root of negative 1 with I. Alright, now let's see what I got here. This one I got a square root of a negative 20. Alright, so if you notice, 20 is not a perfect square, so it does have a factor that is a perfect square, and that would be 4. So what you want to do on this one is make this into 3 radicals. The perfect square factor of 20 is a 4, and then I'm going to put the negative 1, and then I'm going to put the 5. So since 4 times 5 is 20 times negative 1 gives me negative 20, we're able to do this. Now, watch what we do. The square root of 4 is 2. Can't take the square root of negative 1, but we're going to replace it with our I. And then, y'all, the square root of 5, we cannot do nothing to that, so bring down the square root of 5. So it's just like when y'all simplified square root of 20. The only difference is now we got to take care of that negative 1 by bringing it out as I. Alright, so number 6, they start wanting us to add and subtract. So on number 6, I'm going to add, I got negative 5 plus 2i. I'm adding that to 9 plus 8i. So since you're adding, we can drop the parentheses and keep all of the signs the same. So negative 5 plus 2i plus 9 plus 8i. Now, remember, real numbers add to real numbers, so the negative 5 will add to the 9. Negative 5 and 9 give me 4. And then imaginary numbers add to imaginary numbers. 2i plus 8i give me 10i. Now, y'all, what's nice is the calculator will do these imaginary problems all day long. you got a parenthesis, so hit the parentheses, and then negative 5 plus 2. To get the I, you hit the second decimal. That'll bring the I up. Close parentheses, and then it's plus parentheses 9 plus 8. Second decimal to get the I. Close parentheses. Hit enter. And notice I get 4 plus 10i. Alright, number 7 is subtraction. 10 plus 5i minus 4 plus 2i. Alright, subtraction's a little bit different than addition because I do need to distribute the subtraction. So when I rewrite this, it'll be 10 plus 5i minus 4 minus 2i. So I distributed my negative. Now I'm going to add the real to the real. 10 and negative 4 give me 6. And then 5 and negative 2i give me a positive 3i. Y'all watch this. Once again, you could do it on a calculator. 10 plus 5, second decimal to get my I, close parentheses, minus, open parentheses, 4 plus 2, second decimal to get the I, close parentheses, and I get 6 plus 3i. Oh, hold on, this is number 8, y'all, my bad. Alright, 8 wants me to multiply 2i times 8 minus 6i. Alright, so just remember one thing. When I multiply, if I get an I squared, I'm going to turn that into a negative 1. Alright, so here we go. 2i times 8 is 16i. 2i times negative 6i is a negative 12i squared. Alright, so remember I said while ago I'm going to change the I squared to a negative 1. So this gives me a 16i minus 12 times negative 1. Alright, so guess what? You got to multiply them together. So that gives you 16i. Negative times a negative makes that a positive 12. Now, they want the answers in A plus BI form, so we always got to put the real number first, which is 12, and then plus our 16i. Okay? So the main thing, I squared, all it does to the number in front of it is change its sign. Alright, so watch this. 2, second decimal to get my I, parentheses, 8 minus 6, second decimal to get my I, and notice the calculator gives me 12 plus 16i. And the calculator knows to put it in the order of A plus BI. Alright, y'all, number 9. Looks like a little foiling. 4 plus 6i times negative 2 minus 7i. Alright, so 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. 4 times negative 7i is a negative 28i. 6i times negative 2 is a negative 12i. And then 6i times negative 7i is a negative 42i squared. Alright, so what I'm going to do is add like terms in the middle. And I'm going to change that I squared into a negative 1. So watch what I do. I'm going to bring down that negative 8. Negative 28 and negative 12 give me negative 40i. And then that negative 42 times that negative 1 makes that a positive 42. Okay, so remember, I squared is only going to change the sign of the number in front of it. Now, notice, these are real numbers that can add together. So negative 8 and 42 give me a positive 34 minus my 40i. Alright, y'all watch this. Parentheses. 4 plus 6i, parentheses, negative 2 minus 7i, I, close parentheses, hit enter, and I get 34 minus 40i. Alright, y'all, number 10 is 6 plus 9i times 6 minus 9i. So these are conjugate pairs, so watch how things cancel out here. So 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times negative 9i is a negative 54i. 9i times 6 is a positive 54i. And then 9i times negative 9i is a negative 81i squared. Alright, so we're going to add like terms, but these like terms cancel. And I'm going to change that I squared into a negative 1. So I get 36. The middles cancel, and that negative 81I squared now becomes a positive 81. Okay, and then finally I'm going to add 36 plus 81. So 36 plus 81 is going to give us 117. Final answer. Alright, watch this. 6 plus 9i, 6 minus 9i gives me an answer of 117. Alright, number 11 has 3 plus 7i squared. Alright, so this exponent wants me to write this twice. 3 plus 7i times 3 plus 7i. And then I'm going to FOIL. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 7i is 21i. 7i times 3 is 21i. And then 7i times 7i is a positive 49i squared. Alright, so once again we're going to add like terms and change that I squared into a negative 1. So I bring down my 9. 21i and 21i give me a positive 42i. And then that positive 49i squared now becomes a negative 49 due to the I squared equaling a negative 1. Alright, and if you notice, the last thing I can do is add those real numbers. So 9 and negative 49 give me negative 40 plus 42i. Alright, now watch how I do that on the calculator. Parentheses, 3 plus 7, second decimal to get my I. And in the squared, there's an x squared button right there. I'm just going to hit that and square it. Hit enter. And notice I get negative 40 plus 42i. Alright, y'all, one more of these. And this is 2 minus 5i squared. So same thing, write that twice. 2 minus 5i times 2 minus 5i. And FOIL. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative 5i is negative 10i. Negative 5i times 2 is negative 10i. Negative 5i times negative 5i is a positive 25i squared. Alright, you got it. I'm going to add like terms and change the I squared into a negative 1. So I bring down to 4. Negative 10i and negative 10i give me a negative 20i. Notice I'm not changing the I when I add or subtract, okay? And then remember, 25i squared now becomes a negative 25. And then finally, like before, last step, add the like terms. 4 and negative 25 give me negative 21 minus 20i. Alright, so here we go. I had what? 2 minus 5i squared. And that gives me my negative 21 minus 20i. Alright, so that's all I have on that. So, good luck, and see y'all later.